The coffee splattered across Gemma Zander's pristine white blouse like a Rorschach test, but all she could see in the pattern was disaster. She was already 15 minutes late for the most important meeting of her career, and now this. The small airport coffee shop buzzed with early morning travelers, none of whom seemed to notice her predicament except for one man. "Here," a deep voice said, offering a handful of napkins. "Cold water, not hot, and dab, don't rub." Gemma looked up to find a pair of kind hazel eyes watching her with genuine concern. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in faded jeans and a work shirt with the name Kyle stitched above the pocket. His hands were calloused but clean, and a 5 o'clock shadow darkened his jaw despite the early hour. "Thank you," she managed, taking the napkins. "I'm afraid it's a lost cause." "Not necessarily." The man Kyle gestured toward her carry-on. "Got a change of clothes in there. The family restroom has a sink and enough space to fix this. I've gotten worse stains out of my daughter's soccer uniform." Gemma hesitated. Her presentation was in less than an hour, and she needed to get to the downtown office tower. But showing up looking like this wasn't an option. "I'm Kyle Brenner, by the way," he said, extending his hand. "Professional dad and amateur stain remover." Despite herself, Gemma smiled. Gemma Zander, professional disaster and amateur coffee drinker, apparently. 5 minutes, Kyle promised. "I'll have you looking presentable again." Intrigued by his confidence and desperate for help, Gemma nodded. "Lead the way, Mr. Brenner." Kyle guided her to the family restroom, then respectfully waited outside while she changed into the spare blouse from her suitcase. He talked her through treating the stain through the door, his deep voice oddly reassuring as he explained the process. "So what brings you to Cleveland on a Tuesday morning?" he asked as she worked on the stain. "Business meeting. A big one." Gemma didn't elaborate. People tended to act differently when they learned who she was the CEO of Zander Tech Solutions, worth over $3 billion on paper. At 32, she was one of the youngest female tech CEOs in the country, and the publicity that came with it was exhausting. "Good luck with that," Kyle said, and something in his genuine tone made her believe he meant it. When she emerged, looking considerably more professional, Kyle grinned. "Much better. You'll knock him dead." "Thanks to you." Gemma checked her watch. "I really have to run, but I owe you one, Kyle Brenner." "Just pay it forward," he said with a shrug, then glanced at his own watch. "I'd better get going too. My flight's boarding soon." They parted ways at the security checkpoint, Gemma hurrying toward the taxi stand while Kyle headed for his gate. Neither expected to see the other again. But fate had other plans. Kyle Brenner settled into his economy seat with a sigh, trying to stretch his long legs in the limited space. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind flying to Cleveland for a job interview that had gone well, but offered less pay than he'd hoped. As a single father to 8-year-old Lily, every dollar mattered, especially since the construction company he worked for back in Portland had downsized 6 months ago. His savings were dwindling, and the part-time handyman gigs weren't enough to cover the bills. This Cleveland job would mean uprooting Lily, but it offered stability, something he couldn't put a price on. The flight attendant's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing a 30-minute delay. Kyle closed his eyes, thinking of his daughter waiting at his sister's house. He'd promised to be home for dinner. "Is this seat taken?" Kyle opened his eyes to find Gemma Zander standing in the aisle, gesturing to the empty middle seat beside him. "It's all yours," he said, surprised. "Aren't you supposed to be in a business meeting?" Gemma slipped into the seat, tucking her designer handbag beneath the seat in front of her. "It finished early. I'm heading back to Portland." "Portland? That's where I live," she smiled. "Small world. Though I'm only there half the time, my company's headquartered there, but I travel constantly." Kyle nodded, noticing the subtle details he'd missed earlier: the quality of her clothes, the expensive watch on her wrist, the confidence in her posture that spoke of someone accustomed to being in charge. "How did your meeting go?" he asked. "Very well. Thanks to you and your stain removal expertise." They fell into easy conversation as the plane taxied and took off. Kyle found himself telling her about Lily, about losing his wife to cancer 4 years ago, about his struggle to provide stability while working inconsistent construction jobs. "Lily sounds amazing," Gemma said. "You must be doing something right." "She's everything to me," Kyle admitted. "Smart, kind, resilient. She's had to grow up faster than I would have liked, but she still manages to be a kid, you know." "Yesterday, she called me from my sister's to tell me she lost another tooth and put it under her pillow. She wanted to make sure I'd tell the tooth fairy where to find her." Gemma smiled. "And will the tooth fairy find her? Absolutely. With inflation, teeth are going for $2 these days." Gemma laughed, and Kyle found himself admiring the sound. For the next 3 hours, they talked about everything and nothing: favorite books, worst travel experiences, best pizza in Portland. What Kyle didn't learn was what Gemma actually did for work, and she seemed content to keep it vague. As they began their descent into Portland, Kyle realized he didn't want their conversation to end. There was something about Gemma, her attentiveness, her laugh, the way she spoke about her passions that drew him in. "This might be forward," he said, "but would you like to grab coffee sometime?" "A properly contained one," he added with a smile. Gemma hesitated, and for a moment, Kyle regretted asking. Of course she wasn't interested. She was clearly successful, probably had important people waiting for her calls. "I'd like that," she said finally. "Though I should warn you, I'm not very good at having a personal life. My assistant typically has to schedule my breathing between meetings." Kyle chuckled. "I'm flexible. Single dad, remember? I understand complicated schedules." They exchanged numbers as the plane touched down, and Kyle felt a flutter of anticipation. It had been a long time since he'd felt this connection with someone. Little did he know that the woman beside him was worth more than most of the passengers on the plane combined. 3 days later, Kyle stood in the kitchen of his modest rental house, scrambling eggs while Lily set the table for breakfast. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the drawings taped to the refrigerator and the pile of bills tucked beside the toaster. "Did you decide about the job in Cleveland?" Lily asked, placing forks beside their plates. Kyle turned off the burner. "Not yet, sweetheart. It's a big decision. Because of school, Miss Parker said I can finish the year's work early if we have to move." Kyle's heart tightened. Lily was always thinking ahead, always trying to make things easier for him. "That's part of it," he admitted. "But Portland is our home. Your friends are here, Aunt Jessica is here. I'm still hoping something will come through locally." The truth was more complicated. The Cleveland job offered stability but less pay than he needed. His sister Jessica had offered to help, but she had her own family to support. And selling the house wasn't an option. The market was down, and he'd barely break even on the mortgage. His phone buzzed with a text message. "Gemma. Coffee today? 2 p.m. at Bridgetown Brew on Hawthorne?" Kyle smiled, typing back a quick affirmative. He'd been thinking about Gemma more than he cared to admit. "Who's that?" Lily asked, her perceptive eyes missing nothing. "Just a friend. Someone I met on my trip." Lily raised an eyebrow in a gesture so reminiscent of her mother that it made Kyle's chest ache. "A friend or a lady friend?" Kyle chuckled. "Just a friend for now. Her name is Gemma, and we're having coffee this afternoon. Aunt Jessica already said you can go over there after school." Lily nodded sagely. "You should wear the blue shirt. Mom always said it makes your eyes look nice." Kyle blinked back unexpected tears. "The blue shirt it is." At precisely 2 p.m., Kyle walked into Bridgetown Brew, scanning the crowded cafe. He spotted Gemma in the corner, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She looked different from the polished businesswoman he'd met at the airport, more relaxed, more approachable. "No coffee emergencies today, I hope," he said as he slid into the seat across from her. Gemma smiled. "I ordered us both lidded cups, just in case." They fell back into the easy rhythm of their airplane conversation, but this time, Kyle noticed how Gemma deflected personal questions about her work. She mentioned clients and meetings, but never specifics. Whenever the topic veered toward her career, she gently steered it back to him or to neutral territory. "You know a lot about me," Kyle said eventually, "but you're still a mystery, Gemma Zander." She looked down at her cup. "Not intentionally, it's just... my work tends to overshadow everything else when people find out what I do." "Try me," Kyle challenged gently. "I promise not to be impressed unless it's actually impressive," Gemma laughed. "Fair enough. I founded and run a tech company, Zander Tech Solutions." Kyle's brow furrowed. "Why does that sound familiar?" "We were in the news recently." "The Pentagon contract." Kyle's eyes widened as recognition dawned. He'd read about Zander Tech landing a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity contract. The CEO had been profiled in several business magazines. "You're that Gemma Zander," he said slowly. "The billionaire tech genius." She winced. "And this is exactly why I don't lead with that information. Does it change things?" Kyle considered the question seriously. "It's surprising," he admitted. "But it doesn't change that you're the woman who laughed at my terrible jokes on the plane and who's been telling me about your cat's strange vendetta against your houseplants for the last 20 minutes. Relief washed over Gemma's face. "Good. Because I've enjoyed talking with someone who doesn't want anything from me." "Well, I might want a second date," Kyle said with a smile, "if that's what this is." "I'd like that," Gemma replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. As they left the cafe 2 hours later, Kyle realized he hadn't thought about his financial troubles once during their conversation. Something about Gemma made the rest of the world fade away, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. What started as coffee evolved into dinner the following week. Gemma suggested a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, intimate, without being overwhelming. Kyle arrived first, nervously adjusting his blue button-down shirt and checking his wallet to make sure he had enough to cover the bill. He hadn't been on a proper date since before his wife got sick, and the rules felt foreign. When Gemma arrived, her smile erased his anxiety. She wore a simple black dress, her hair swept up, a few tendrils framing her face. Kyle stood as she approached the table. "You look beautiful," he said honestly. "Thank you, so do you." She sat across from him. "Though I have to say, I'm surprised you agreed to a second date after finding out about my job." "Why would that matter?" Gemma shrugged. "In my experience, men either become intimidated by my success or see me as a trophy to be won. Neither is particularly appealing." "I have a confession," Kyle said, leaning forward. "I Googled you after our coffee date. Read all about your company's innovations in cybersecurity and your philanthropy work. It's impressive, Gemma, but it's not why I wanted to see you again." "Why did you?" "Because talking with you was the easiest thing I've done in years, because you listened when I talked about Lily. Because you seem genuinely interested in me, not Kyle Brenner, eligible bachelor, but just me." The vulnerability in his admission hung between them until Gemma reached across the table to take his hand. Her fingers were soft against his calloused palm. "I feel the same way," she said quietly. "It's been a long time since I met someone who sees me as a person first, not a balance sheet." They shared a bottle of wine and plates of pasta, talking about childhood memories and future dreams. Kyle told her about growing up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs, about putting himself through trade school, about meeting his late wife in a hardware store where they argued over the best type of sandpaper. "What about you?" he asked. "How does someone become a tech mogul before 35? Gemma twirled pasta around her fork. "My parents were both computer scientists. I was coding before I could drive. Started Zander Tech in my garage after college, developed a security protocol that major banks adopted, and things snowballed from there." She paused. "The money's still surreal sometimes. I grew up solidly middle class. Now I have people who manage my money managers. What do you do with it all?" "Invest back in the company. Fund scholarships for girls in STEM, and I'm establishing a foundation to help single parents return to the workforce, flexible schedules, on-site childcare, that sort of thing." Kyle nodded thoughtfully. That would have made a world of difference after Maria died. Finding childcare that matched my work hours was impossible. I had to turn down better-paying jobs because they didn't accommodate a dad with a 4-year-old. Exactly the problem I'm trying to solve. Gemma hesitated. Kyle, would you be willing to consult on the project? You have practical experience I lack. I'd pay you, of course. I'd be happy to help, but I don't need payment for sharing my opinion. Gemma's expression turned serious. Everyone deserves compensation for their expertise. Don't diminish your worth. Something in her tone made Kyle wonder if she'd had to fight to be valued herself. Despite her success, he could glimpse moments of vulnerability that made him want to know more. As they walked to their cars after dinner, Kyle found himself reluctant to say goodnight. The evening air was cool, stars visible despite the city lights. I had a wonderful time, Gemma said, stopping beside her sleek black Tesla. Me too, Kyle took a breath. I'd like to see you again. I want that too, she stepped closer, but there's something you should know. My life is complicated. I travel constantly. I work 80-hour weeks. I'm not sure I can be what you need. Why don't we figure that out together? Kyle suggested. I'm not asking for promises, Gemma, just a chance to see where this goes. Moonlight silvered her features as she considered his words. Then, making a decision, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, questioning, a beginning rather than a declaration. Kyle's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. When they parted, Gemma's eyes remained closed for a moment, as if memorizing the sensation. I'd like to meet Lily, she said suddenly. If that's okay with you. The request surprised him. Really? She's the most important person in your life. I should know her if we're going to. Explore this. Kyle nodded, touched by her understanding of what mattered to him. She's been asking about you. How about the Portland Children's Museum this weekend? They have a new engineering exhibit she's been wanting to see. Gemma smiled. It's a date. Saturday dawned clear and bright. Kyle watched nervously as Lily picked out her outfit with unusual care, rejecting 3 shirts before settling on a purple t-shirt with a robot design. Is Gemma nice? Lily asked, brushing her brown hair with determined strokes. Very nice, Kyle assured her. And smart. She works with computers. Like a programmer, we're learning coding in school. Even more advanced than that, she runs her own technology company. Lily looked impressed. Do you like her dad? Like her? Kyle knelt to be at eye level with his daughter. I do like her. But you know that no one could ever replace your mom, right? Lily nodded solemnly. Mom would want you to be happy. She told me to take care of you, but it's hard work. She sighed dramatically. You're very stubborn. Kyle laughed, pulling her into a hug. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't paying attention. The museum bustled with weekend activity. Kyle scanned the entrance, spotting Gemma immediately. She wore jeans and a casual blazer, her hair in a ponytail, looking more like a regular person than a billionaire CEO. The normality of her appearance calmed his nerves. There she is, he told Lily, guiding her through the crowd. Gemma smiled when she saw them, but Kyle noticed the flash of nervousness in her eyes. This meeting mattered to her too. Hi, she said. You must be Lily. Your dad has told me so much about you. Lily studied Gemma with the frank assessment only children can get away with. He talks about you too. He says you're smart. That's very kind of him. I hear you're pretty brilliant yourself. Your dad mentioned you're learning to code. Lily's face lit up. We're making a game at school. Do you code games? Sometimes. Mostly I work on programs that keep information safe, like digital locks and alarm systems. Cool, can you show me how? And just like that, the ice was broken. Lily took Gemma's hand as they entered the museum, asking questions about computers and security systems. Gemma answered each one patiently, never talking down to Lily, treating her questions with genuine respect. Kyle followed, watching his daughter and this remarkable woman connect. Gemma crouched beside Lily at exhibits, explaining engineering concepts in terms the 8-year-old could understand. She listened attentively, when Lily shared her own ideas. By the time they reached the museum cafe for lunch, Lily was chattering away as if she'd known Gemma for years. "Dad, Gemma says there's a special camp for girls who like coding, and she thinks I could go next summer." Kyle raised an eyebrow at Gemma, who looked sheepish. "I sponsor the program," she explained. "It's for girls 8 to 12. No pressure at all, just thought she might be interested." "It sounds great," Kyle said. "As long as we're still in Portland." Lily's face fell. "Are we still moving to Cleveland?" Gemma looked between them, confusion evident. "Cleveland?" "I interviewed for a job there," Kyle explained. "Construction management. The company here downsized 6 months ago, and I've been piecing together work since then." Understanding dawned on Gemma's face. "I didn't realize. That must be stressful." "We'll be okay," Kyle said firmly, not wanting to discuss his financial situation in front of Lily. "Let's get some lunch." While Lily studied the menu, Gemma leaned toward Kyle. "I might know some people in the construction industry here. Would you mind if I asked around? I appreciate the thought, but I don't want charity." "Networking isn't charity, Kyle. It's how most people find jobs." Before he could respond, Lily interrupted with her lunch order, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. As they ate, Kyle watched Gemma interact with his daughter, answering questions about her travels and telling funny stories about her cat. After lunch, they explored the outdoor science park. Lily ran ahead to a water feature, leaving Kyle and Gemma momentarily alone. "She's wonderful," Gemma said. "Smart, curious kind. You've done an amazing job with her." Kyle's chest tightened with pride. "She makes it easy, most of the time." "What about the Cleveland job? Is it a sure thing?" he sighed. "They made an offer, but the salary barely covers our expenses. I'd have to take side jobs there too, which defeats the purpose of moving for stability." Gemma nodded thoughtfully. "And what would be ideal?" "If you could design your perfect job situation, consistent work with flexible hours. Something that uses my management experience, but keeps me connected to actual building." "I like working with my hands," Kyle shrugged. "The unicorn of construction jobs, basically." "Unicorns exist if you know where to look," Gemma said cryptically. "Trust me on that." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of exhibits and laughter. By the time they said goodbye, Lily was asking when they could see Gemma again. "Soon, I hope," Gemma said, giving Lily a hug. "Maybe you could meet my cat next time." "You have a cat. Dad, can we get a cat?" "One new thing at a time, kiddo," Kyle laughed. "Go wait by the car while I say goodbye to Gemma." Once Lily was out of earshot, Kyle turned to Gemma. "Thank you for today. She hasn't been this animated in months." "I had a wonderful time," Gemma said sincerely. "She's special, Kyle. You both are." He leaned in to kiss her, a brief, sweet connection. "When will I see you again?" "I have to fly to Boston tomorrow for meetings, but I'll be back Wednesday. Dinner at my place. I make a mean lasagna." "It's a date." As they parted ways, Kyle felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. Something was shifting in his world, and for once, it felt like a change for the better. 3 days later, Kyle's phone rang as he was finishing a bathroom tile installation. He wiped his hands on a rag before answering, surprised to see an unfamiliar local number. Kyle Brenner speaking. "Mr. Brenner, this is Thomas Wilcox with Pacific Northwest Builders. I understand you're in the market for a construction management position." Kyle straightened, setting down his tools. "Yes, I am." "Great. Your name came highly recommended by a mutual acquaintance. We're expanding our sustainable building division and need someone with both hands-on experience and management skills. Your resume crossed my desk this morning, and I'd like to bring you in for an interview." Mind racing, Kyle agreed to an interview time the following day. After hanging up, he stared at his phone, suspicion forming. The timing was too convenient, especially after his conversation with Gemma at the museum. That evening, as he drove to Gemma's address a penthouse apartment in a sleek building downtown his emotions ward between gratitude and pride. He appreciated her help, but he'd always made his own way in the world. Gemma greeted him warmly. her apartment surprising him with its understated elegance. No ostentatious displays of wealth, just thoughtful design and quality furnishings. The promised lasagna bubbled in the oven, filling the space with a homey aroma. "Your place is beautiful," he said, accepting the glass of wine she offered. "Thank you. It took a while to feel like home. I travel so much that it was just a place to sleep for years." She gestured toward the expansive windows with their view of the city lights. "But I've been trying to put down roots lately." Kyle took a seat at the kitchen island, watching as she prepared a salad. "Speaking of roots, I got an interesting call today from Pacific Northwest Builders." Gemma's hands stilled momentarily before continuing to slice cucumbers. "Oh, seems my resume mysteriously appeared on the desk of their hiring manager. Any idea how that happened?" She met his gaze directly. "I might have mentioned your name to someone who knows someone." "Gemma, before you get upset," she interrupted, "all I did was make a connection. Your qualifications got you the interview. I didn't offer to fund the position or promise anything in return." Kyle sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I appreciate the thought, but I need to know that whatever happens between us isn't because you feel sorry for me or think I need rescuing." Gemma set down the knife and came around the island to stand in front of him. "Is that what you think this is?" "I don't know what to think. You're—" He gestured vaguely. "You, and I'm a struggling single dad who can barely make rent some months. You're also the man who stopped to help a stranger with a coffee stain when everyone else walked by. The man who talks about his daughter like she hung the moon. The man who makes me laugh and challenges me and kisses me like I'm something precious." Gemma took his hands in hers. "I don't feel sorry for you, Kyle. I admire you, and yes, I want to help if I can, the same way you helped me." Kyle searched her face, finding only sincerity. "I've never needed anyone's help before, not like this. Everyone needs help sometimes, even self-sufficient construction managers." She smiled softly. "Even billionaire CEOs who spill coffee on themselves." The tension in Kyle's shoulders eased. "Fair point, but promise me something." "No more pulling strings without talking to me first. Promise." She sealed it with a kiss that quickly deepened, communicating everything they weren't saying with words. The oven timer interrupted them, and Gemma reluctantly pulled away. "Lasagna's done. Let's eat before we get distracted." Over dinner, they talked about Lily's school project, Gemma's upcoming conference, and Kyle's ideas for sustainable building practices. The conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from politics to favorite movies. By the time they moved to the couch with glasses of dessert wine, Kyle felt as if he'd known Gemma for years rather than weeks. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Gemma said, curling her legs beneath her, facing him on the sofa. Kyle considered the question. "I'm terrified of failing Lily. Every decision I make, every job I take or turn down, it all comes back to making sure she has what she needs. Not just materially, but emotionally. Sometimes I'm not sure I'm enough." Gemma's expression softened. "From what I've seen, you're exactly what she needs. She's confident, kind, curious, all reflections of you." "Your turn," Kyle said. "Something you've never told anyone." Gemma traced the rim of her wine glass. "I'm lonely most of the time. I have assistants and employees and business associates, but few real friends. People either want something from me or are intimidated by me. Until you spilled coffee on me, you spilled it on yourself," Kyle corrected with a smile. "Until that coffee incident, I couldn't remember the last time someone spoke to me without an agenda." Kyle set down his glass and took hers, placing it on the coffee table before drawing her closer. "I don't have an agenda, just a growing certainty that you're someone special, Gemma Zander." She leaned into him. "Even though I meddled with your job situation, even though—" He kissed her temple. "Though I reserve the right to be annoyed if you buy the company after they hire me." Gemma laughed against his chest. "No acquisitions without consultation. Got it." As the evening deepened into night, they talked and kissed and simply held each other. For both, it felt like the beginning of something real, something neither had expected to find. The interview with Pacific Northwest Builders went better than Kyle could have imagined. The company specialized in sustainable construction, using innovative techniques and materials to minimize environmental impact while maximizing efficiency. The position they offered was perfect. Project management with hands-on oversight, flexible hours, and a salary that exceeded his expectations. 2 weeks after accepting the job, Kyle invited Gemma to dinner at his modest house. It was the first time she'd seen where he lived, and he'd spent the day cleaning and preparing, aware of how different his home was from her penthouse. "Something smells amazing," Gemma said as she entered, accepting the kiss Kyle offered. "Dad's making his famous enchiladas," Lily announced, bouncing on her toes. "And I made dessert. It's a surprise." "I can't wait." Gemma handed Lily a small gift bag. "I brought something for you." "A thank you for inviting me to dinner." Inside was a beginner's coding kit designed for Lily's age group. The girl's eyes widened with delight. "This is so cool. Can we start tonight?" "After dinner," Kyle said. "Why don't you set the table while I show Gemma around?" The house tour didn't take long. 3 bedrooms, a small living room, and a kitchen with outdated appliances but plenty of character. Family photos lined the walls, and Lily's artwork was displayed prominently on the refrigerator. "It's not much," Kyle said, suddenly self-conscious. "It's perfect," Gemma replied, her eyes taking in the details that made it a home. "It feels lived in. Loved." Throughout dinner, Kyle watched Gemma and Lily interact, their easy rapport growing stronger with each meeting. Lily chattered about school and her friends, while Gemma shared stories about the robots her company was developing. "Dad says your company makes security things," Lily said as they ate the brownie sundaes she'd helped prepare. "Do you have security guards and stuff too?" Gemma nodded. "A few. But most of our security is digital programs that protect information, like passwords. Much more complicated than passwords, but that's part of it." Lily considered this. "Dad says you're super rich. Is that why you need security? To protect your money?" "Lily," Kyle admonished, mortified. "That's not an appropriate question." "It's okay," Gemma assured him before turning back to Lily. "I am fortunate to have more money than I need, but security isn't just about protecting money, it's about privacy and safety. Everyone deserves to feel safe, no matter how much or how little they have." Lily nodded, satisfied with the answer. "Can I be excused? I want to try my new coding kit." After Lily left, Kyle groaned. "I'm so sorry, we're still working on social filters." Gemma laughed. "She's curious. It's refreshing, actually." Most adults dance around the money question while thinking about it constantly. "I admit, it's still strange to me," Kyle said, clearing the dessert dishes. "Dating a billionaire wasn't on my bingo card for this year." "Dating a sexy construction manager wasn't on mine either," Gemma countered with a wink. "Yet here we are." "Here we are," Kyle agreed, pulling her close. "And I have to say, I'm pretty happy about where we've ended up." 6 months into their relationship, Kyle and Gemma had established a rhythm that worked for both of them. When Gemma was in town, they spent as much time together as possible, often with Lily included in their activities. When Gemma traveled for work, they video called daily, sharing the details of their days. Kyle's new job had transformed their lives. The regular hours meant he could be home when Lily finished school. The improved salary allowed him to start a college fund for her and put away savings for the first time in years. And the work itself challenged and satisfied him, combining his management skills with his passion for hands-on construction. On a sunny Saturday in early autumn, the 3 of them hiked in Forest Park, enjoying the changing leaves and cool breeze. Lily ran ahead on the trail, collecting colorful leaves and interesting rocks. "She has more energy than both of us combined," Gemma observed, her hand comfortably entwined with Kyle's. "Always has." Kyle squeezed her hand. "Thank you for suggesting this. We needed a day outdoors." They found a clearing with a fallen log perfect for sitting. As they rested, watching Lily explore nearby, Gemma turned to Kyle with an unusually serious expression. I've been thinking, she began. My lease is up next month. Kyle nodded, wondering where this was heading. Planning to renew. Actually, I was thinking of buying a house. Something with a yard, maybe in your neighborhood. Kyle's heartbeat quickened. Any particular reason you're considering my neighborhood? Gemma took a deep breath. Because I want to be closer to you and Lily. Because I love you both, and I'm tired of living in a sterile penthouse when the people who matter most to me are across town. You love us, Kyle repeated, a smile spreading across his face. I do. Gemma looked nervous now. Is that okay? Kyle laughed, pulling her into his arms. It's more than okay. It's wonderful, because I love you too, Gemma, have for months now. She relaxed against him. Really? Really? You've changed our lives in so many ways, and not just the practical ones. You make me laugh, you challenge me, you love my daughter like she's your own. She makes it easy, Gemma said, echoing his words from months earlier. She's part of you, and I love every part of you, Kyle Brenner. Kyle kissed her then, pouring all his feelings into the connection. When they separated, he kept her close. About that house. What would you think about moving in with us instead? Our place isn't fancy, but it's home. Gemma's eyes widened. Are you serious? You want me to move in? Unless you think it's too soon, she shook her head. It's not too soon, but are you sure? My life comes with complications, security concerns, media attention. I don't want to disrupt your lives. We'll figure it out together, Kyle said confidently. That's what families do. Families, Gemma repeated, the word sounding both foreign and right on her lips. I like the sound of that. Lily chose that moment to return, her hands full of treasures. Look what I found. This rock has gold in it. I bet it's worth $1 million. Gemma examined the pyrite-flecked stone solemnly. Definitely valuable. We should add it to our collection. Our collection? Lily asked. Kyle and Gemma exchanged glances before Kyle spoke. We have something to ask you, Lily Bean. How would you feel if Gemma came to live with us? If she became part of our family? Lily's brow furrowed in concentration. Would she bring her cat? Gemma laughed. Pixel would definitely come too. And would you still help me with coding and tell me stories about robots? Every day, if you want. Lily nodded decisively. Then yes, that would be good. And just like that, their future was decided. As they walked back down the trail, Lily between them holding both their hands, Kyle marveled at how life could change in an instant, how a spilled coffee in an airport could lead to finding love when he least expected it. 1 year to the day after they met, Kyle proposed on the same hiking trail where they had decided to move in together. Gemma, tears streaming down her face, said yes immediately. Lily, who was in on the plan, emerged from her hiding spot to help slide the ring onto Gemma's finger, a family effort, just like everything else in their lives. Their wedding was small and intimate, held in the backyard of their home. Gemma wore a simple white dress, Kyle a charcoal suit, and Lily a purple dress she'd picked out herself. Jessica stood as Kyle's best woman, while Gemma's college roommate served as her maid of honor. During the ceremony, they included a special moment for Lily, presenting her with a locket containing photos of all three of them. We're not just getting married, Gemma told her. We're becoming a family, the three of us together. At the reception, surrounded by their closest friends and family, Kyle pulled his new wife onto the dance floor. Happy? He asked, holding her close. Gemma smiled up at him, her eyes shining. More than I ever thought possible. Who would have guessed that spilling coffee could lead to all this? Best accident of my life, Kyle agreed. Though technically you spilled it on yourself. Details, Gemma laughed. The important thing is that you stopped to help. As they danced under the stars, Kyle reflected on how completely his life had transformed. He'd gone from struggling to provide for his daughter to having a partner who shared his values, his dreams, and his love for Lily. Gemma had brought so much more than financial stability to their lives. She'd brought joy, laughter, and a sense of family that had been missing since Maria died. And Gemma, who once measured her worth by her company's success, had found something money couldn't buy. A family who loved her for herself, not for what she could provide. In Kyle and Lily, she'd found the home she'd been searching for all along. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep and the guests had departed, Kyle and Gemma stood in their kitchen, still in their wedding clothes, sharing a quiet moment. "You know what I was thinking today," Gemma said, leaning against the counter. "How lucky we are." "Besides that," she smiled. "I was thinking about what might have happened if you hadn't offered those napkins at the airport, if you just walked by like everyone else." Kyle pulled her into his arms. "I could never have walked by. Something about you caught my attention from the first moment. Maybe it was fate." "Or just good timing and better luck," Gemma suggested. "Either way, I'm grateful every day for that coffee stain." "To coffee stains," Kyle said, lifting an imaginary glass, "and to the rest of our lives together." "The rest of our lives," Gemma echoed, sealing the promise with a kiss that felt like coming home.